Shavua Tov, Rabbi Kovacs here for our last full day of Gittin in the Mishnah Yomi. Tomorrow we'll do the very last Mishnah, a really amazing wild Mishnah of Gittin, and we'll do the first Mishnah of Kiddushin tomorrow. But right now we're in chapter 9, kind of the odds and ends of Gittin. Mishnah Het, Get Shtavo Ivrit, a get written in Ivrit, Lashon HaKodesh, Edav Yevonit, and they signed it in Greek. So this was Jewish men who know how to write in Greek. They signed it in Greek. Yevonit, or the get itself, is written in Greek, the Edav Ivrit, and the witnesses are signing in Ivrit, written right to left, of course, or Eid Echad Ivri, Eid Echad Yevoni, one signs in Hebrew, one in Greek, or any other language written left to right. Ktav Sofer V'Eid, if you had the writing, here it means the signature of the Sofer, the scribe himself who drafted the get, plus another aid, kosher. All these cases work. As opposed to yesterday when there were two Gittin written on one page in two columns, and then mixing languages and signatures caused problems if the signatures are under both. Here there's just one get with two signatures. The languages do not need to match. With the Sofer case, you might have thought that the husband instructed two specific men to be the witnesses, but they deferred because the scribe, the Sofer, was typically a Rav, a sage, and someone important, so they might say, you know what, you go ahead and sign it. So we're not worried about that case. The Sofer wouldn't do that without the husband's instructions. Now, what does an aid have to sign? Ish ploni aid, if he says his name and then the word aid, kosher, that works. Ben ish ploni aid, kosher. Even if he uses his father's name, I'm the son of so-and-so, witnessing, that also works. We don't actually have his name, but we do have his handwriting, so I think we can track him down based on his father's name, figure out the family. If he writes Ish Ploni, Ben Ish Ploni, the name and his father's name, velo kotav aid, he doesn't write the word aid, witnessing, or witness right after, kosher, still good, and those of clean mind, the people who were, careful and fastidious with halacha, they would sign like this in Yerushalayim. They would admit the word aid. That was sort of implied, as far as they were concerned. Kotav hanichato, what if he wrote the family name, v'chanichato, or his wife's family name? It's sort of like a last name. Kosher, that's still valid. Now, it was very common to use the father's name back 2,000 years ago, and even 1,000 years ago. Last names were not terribly common, but they've become more common. But they did have such a thing as sort of a family name or a last name. Now the Mishnah turns to a topic we've all been waiting for, get me'use, a forced get, meaning someone has forced, threatened, coerced the husband to give the get. He didn't really want to, but they talked him into it, holding a club. But Yisrael, if Jews did it, kosher, it's still a valid get. Now what's going on, the Gemara explains, is the Beit Din, the court, rendered a verdict that the husband is obligated to give a get. In that case, they could, talk to the Jewish mafia guys and, figure out a way to get it done. Now, the Gemara says really a forced get is puzzle, so what they do is kofin oto ad sheyome rotze ani. They have to coerce him or encourage him until he actually says, yes, I want to give the get. They can't just, beat it into him. He has to agree, even if his agreement was not what he wanted to do originally. And the Kahati cites the Rambam that this relies on the Svara that deep down every Jew wants to do the right thing, wants to do the mitzvot and observe the Torah. And if the Beit Din considered the case and rendered a correct verdict that yes, he has to give a get in this case, then that's the right thing to do. So deep down he wants to do the right thing. His Yetzer Hara is telling him to make trouble, to make quarrels, to make the life difficult for his ex-wife, to make her an aguna, God forbid. So in that case, really, he wants to give the get. He just needs a little encouragement, a little verbal or physical encouragement. The Mishnah compares V'goyim, if non-Jews just beat the guy up, puzzle. It's not a valid get, even if he gives the get after getting their non-Jewish beating. V'goy, I think a Jewish beating is always done with a little more rachamim and a little more compassion and understanding than a non-Jewish beating, God forbid. V'goyim hovtin oto v'omrim lo, if the goyim hit him and they're telling him, Osei Moshe Yisrael omrim loch, you need to do what the Jewish Bezdin, the Jewish court told you have to do, kosher, that does work. So the Bezdin could, in theory, hire the non-Jewish mafia to encourage the husband. As always, we don't paskin halacha lemaisa from the Mishnah. If, God forbid, there is an aguna situation, you really need to call in the halachic authorities who really know what they're doing. And if they happen to know some Jewish mafia guys, that's on them. But you really need the big halachic powers to render those cases. On to Mishnah Tet. Yotza Shma Be'ir, if the word got out in the town, Mikudeshet, that a certain young woman has been married with Kedushin, the first stage of a Jewish marriage, Harezu Mikudeshet. We have to assume she is married. Now, obviously, if there are two witnesses who saw the man give her a ring or give her something of value for Kedushin, Hariyat Mikudeshet, of course she is. We're talking about here, it's sort of a rumor, sort of more than a rumor. Like they saw her celebrating, they saw her, getting some gifts of jewelry, and she said, oh yeah, it's for my chassan. That's pretty good. So if she wants to marry someone else, she would need to get a get from this man who's the subject of this shma, of this kol. Migoreshet, if they said, yes, she got married, but she also got divorced, it didn't work out, didn't get off the ground, Harezu Migoreshet. So we assume, just like, it was sort of based on a strong rumor that she was married, so the same level of strong rumor that she was divorced, we can't, she's not going to need a get before she marries someone else. But the Mishnah adds, Uvivad shelo yehe sham amatla. So an amatla is like an excuse or something that sort of negates, undermines the report. Ezehi amatla, what's an example? Gerish ish ploni et ishto al tanai. If they say the divorce was actually done on condition. So it could be that the condition was never fulfilled and the get was never effective. Or zarak la kidusheha, he actually threw the get to her and she was, on the other side of the street, the other side of the stream, safek karav law, safek karav lo. And we've seen a case where we're not really sure if it landed closer to him or her, whose personal space did the get land in, we don't know. Zayhi amatla. This is sort of the reservation or the factor that undermines the report of the divorce taking place. And then, of course, she will need a real get because we have a strong report she was married and a report she was divorced, but we're not sure that actually worked. Yashar Kohachem, Shavua Tov.